Welcome back. Tonight's story is about a woman who smiled through 11 years of holiday dinners with her best friend's husband, never knowing he had a folder of her own front doors. She built her timeline in silence, and on a Monday morning, she walked into a federal building with every clip he never knew she kept. Pour the coffee, stay close. My best friend married my stalker, and I did not know it for 11 years. My name is Ren Halloran. I am 41 years old, a cybersecurity analyst in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I have spent most of my adult life looking at footage other people forget about. Last spring, on a Tuesday in March at 2:14 p.m., I was eating a cold turkey sandwich at my kitchen island when a motion alert pinged my phone. A gray sedan, 4-door, slow roll past my mailbox. I watched it once. I watched it twice. Then I opened a folder on my hard drive that I had not touched in almost a year, and I felt the floor go cold under my bare feet. The same car. The same paint scratch above the rear wheel. The same driver's elbow on the window. I had seen that elbow in Phoenix in 2014. I had seen it in Denver in 2017. I had seen it in Nashville in 2020. And now it was in my driveway in Raleigh, and the man behind the wheel had been sitting across from me at Thanksgiving for the last decade. Some monsters do not hide in alleys. Some monsters bring a casserole and ask if you need a refill. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from tonight. I want to know who is in this with me before I open the rest of the folder. I grew up in a small Ohio town where the streetlights came on at 7:30 in the summer and every front porch had the same wicker chair from the same hardware store. My mother taught 3rd grade. My father fixed copy machines for a regional office supply company and smelled like warm plastic when he came home. We were the kind of family that looked correct from the curb. 2 cars in the driveway, a dog named Biscuit, a flag on the 4th of July, a casserole on Sundays. My older brother was the loud one. I was the quiet one with the notebook. I wrote down everything, license plates of cars I did not recognize, the brand of cereal each neighbor bought, the exact time the mailman turned the corner. My mother used to laugh and call me her little inspector. She did not know she was raising the person who would one day match 11 years of doorbell footage frame by frame in a federal field office. I met Daphne Caro when I was 19 in a basement computer lab at a state school in Columbus. She had a pink streak in her hair, and she could not figure out why her code kept throwing the same error. I leaned over and fixed it in 90 seconds. She bought me coffee for a week. By the end of the semester, she was my best friend, and by the end of college, she was the closest thing I had to a sister. Daphne was the kind of woman who remembered your mother's birthday and sent flowers without being asked. She cried at commercials. She believed people were good. I loved her for it. I still do. That is what makes this story the hardest one I have ever told. She met Marcus Kerrigan the summer after we graduated. He was 4 years older than us, a regional sales rep for a medical device company, polite in the bland way that makes parents relax their shoulders. He had a quiet voice and a slow smile. He listened when women talked, which in 2007 felt like a personality. The first time I met him was at a backyard cookout in Cleveland. He shook my hand a beat too long. I told myself I was imagining it. The second time, he asked me where I lived and what my route to work looked like. I told myself he was making small talk. The third time, he asked if my apartment had a back entrance. I changed the subject. I did not write that one down. I should have. Daphne married him on a Saturday in September of 2009. I was her maid of honor. I gave a toast about the pink streak and the basement lab. Marcus watched me the entire time I spoke. I remember the weight of it on my collarbone, like a coat I had not asked to wear. After the reception, my mother pulled me aside in the parking lot and asked if I was all right. I said I was tired. She did not push. She should have pushed. I should have let her. In 2014, I took a job in Phoenix. A defense contractor needed analysts who could read network traffic the way other people read a newspaper. I rented a small stucco house off a quiet street, the kind with bougainvillea on the fence and a screen door that slammed in the wind. I installed a doorbell camera the first week because I lived alone and my mother had asked me to. I did not think much of it. I did not know then that the camera was the first witness in a case I was not yet investigating. 3 weeks after I moved in, a gray sedan drifted past my mailbox at 6:47 in the morning. I noticed it because the brake lights tapped twice in front of my house, then rolled on. I noticed it again 2 days later at 6:51, then again the following Tuesday at 6:48. I told myself it was a neighbor. I told myself Phoenix was full of gray sedans. I told myself I was being the little inspector again, the one my mother used to laugh at. I clipped the footage anyway. I named the folder Mailbox Observations, and I forgot about it for the better part of a decade. Almost. Daphne and Marcus visited me in Phoenix that November. They stayed for 4 nights. On the 3rd morning, Marcus woke up before either of us and went out for coffee. He was gone for an hour and 40 minutes. When he came back, he had 2 cups and a story about a wrong turn. I did not check the doorbell footage. I wish to God I had. In 2017, my company moved me to Denver. New stucco, new screen door, new gray sedan, same brake light pattern, drifting past my mailbox in the 2nd week of November. By then, I had upgraded to a better camera and a habit of archiving every clip to an external drive at the end of each month. I did not know why I kept them. I told myself it was for work, that pattern recognition was a muscle, that an analyst keeps her data. The truth is, something in my body had been keeping receipts long before my brain agreed to look at them. Daphne and Marcus visited Denver in March of 2018. He went out for coffee again. He was gone for 2 hours. He came back with 1 cup and a story about a flat tire. He smelled like cold air and gasoline. I remember the gasoline because Daphne kissed his cheek and asked if he wanted a shower, and he said no, he was fine. He wanted to sit with us. He sat across from me on my couch for 3 hours that afternoon, and every time I looked up, his eyes were already on me. I told myself he was tired. I told myself I was tired. I told myself 100 things that year that I now know were lies. My body told my mind to keep me functional. The folder on my hard drive in Denver was named Gray Sedan Denver 2017 to 2019. I did not open it once after I made it. I just kept feeding it. In 2020, I moved to Nashville for a senior role at a financial intelligence firm. By then, the pandemic had locked the country indoors, and a doorbell camera was no longer a precaution. It was a window. I watched everything. I watched the Amazon driver who left packages on his hip. I watched the neighbor across the street walk her white terrier at 7:15 every morning. And in the second week of August, at 6:49 in the morning, I watched a gray sedan drift past my mailbox and tap its brakes twice. I sat down on the floor of my entryway in my bare feet, and I did not move for 40 minutes. I knew. I did not know what I knew yet, but I knew. If you have ever felt your body understand something 3 years before your mind catches up, drop a 1 in the comments. I want to know I am not the only one who has had that morning on the entryway floor. I called Daphne the next day. I asked her, casually, if Marcus had been traveling that week. She said yes. A conference in Atlanta. He had been gone since Sunday. Atlanta is a 4-hour drive from Nashville. I did not say that. I said it sounded like a long week. I asked her how she was. She cried a little and said Marcus had been distant, that he kept taking long drives on weekends and coming home smelling like other towns. She said she thought he might be having an affair. I told her I was sorry. I told her I loved her. I hung up the phone and I sat on the kitchen floor and I opened the folder named Gray Sedan Denver 2017 to 2019. And then the folder named Mailbox Observations from Phoenix. And I lined the clips up side by side on 2 monitors. The same car, the same scratch above the rear wheel, the same elbow on the window, 11 years of the same elbow. I did not call the police that night. I will tell you why, and you will understand. I was a cybersecurity analyst. I had spent 15 years watching cases fall apart because the evidence was a mess, because the timeline had gaps, because the victim could not say exactly when and exactly where and exactly how often. If I was going to do this, I was going to do it the way I did everything else. Clean, documented, time-stamped, cross-referenced. I was going to build the case I would want to receive if I were the agent on the other side of the desk. In 2022, I took the job in Raleigh and bought a small brick house on a cul-de-sac with 2 dogwood trees and a porch light that came on at dusk. I installed 3 cameras, front, side, and the small one above the garage that most people would not notice. I told no one, not my mother, not my brother, not Daphne, especially not Daphne. I went to their house for Thanksgiving in 2022 and again in 2023, and I sat across from Marcus Kerrigan at a table set with my best friend's good china, and I watched him pass the gravy to my mother and ask her about her bridge club, and I felt nothing on my face and 1,000 things under my ribs. He asked me, that second Thanksgiving, what kind of cameras I used on my new house. He asked it the way a man asks about a recipe. I told him I used a basic brand. I told him the cheapest one on the shelf. He smiled. I smiled back. The little inspector took a note. In the meantime, I built. I rented a small storage unit and bought a fireproof safe and a separate laptop that never touched the internet. Every Saturday morning, I poured a cup of coffee and I worked on the timeline. 11 years of doorbell footage, organized by city, by month, by time of day. I logged every appearance of the gray sedan. Phoenix, 18 confirmed sightings. Denver, 23. Nashville, 31. Raleigh, by the spring of 2025, already at 14. I cross-referenced each sighting with Marcus Kerrigan's public travel patterns, which were not hard to find for a woman with my job. Conference registrations, sales territory maps, frequent flyer statements Daphne had once asked me to help her organize. He had been within a 1-hour drive of my mailbox every single time the gray sedan appeared. Every single time. 11 years. The folder class reveal, the one I have not told you yet, is this. In a clip from Denver in February of 2018, taken at 5:42 in the morning while I was asleep upstairs, the gray sedan pulled into my driveway and sat for 9 minutes. The driver got out. He walked to my front door. He stood on my welcome mat for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. He touched the doorknob. He did not turn it. He went back to the car and he drove away. I had never seen that clip until the night I built the timeline. I sat in my Raleigh kitchen at 1 a.m. and I watched a man stand on my doormat in another state, in another life. And I recognized the shoulders before I recognized the face. He was wearing the same green jacket he had worn to my brother's wedding 2 months earlier. I was not afraid that night. I was something quieter than afraid. I was awake. On a Monday morning in April of 2025, at 9 a.m. exactly, I walked into the FBI field office in Raleigh with a leather portfolio under my arm and a backup drive in my coat pocket. I asked to speak to an agent who handled interstate stalking and cyber-enabled harassment. I gave my name, I gave my profession, I gave them 11 years of time-stamped footage from 4 states, a spreadsheet with 392 cross-referenced data points, and a single printed photograph of a man standing on my doormat in Denver at 5:44 in the morning. The agent who took the case was a woman named Dana Beauchamp. She had short silver hair and reading glasses on a chain. She looked at the first 3 pages of my binder, and she looked up at me, and she said, very quietly, "I have been doing this for 22 years, and I have never seen a file like this." I told her I had been waiting 11 years to hand it to someone. She asked me if I wanted coffee. I said yes. She got it herself. "If you have stayed with me until now, thank you. Tell me in the comments what part of this one is sitting on your chest the hardest, because I know some of you already knew the green jacket was coming." 2 weeks later, I drove to Daphne's house in Charlotte on a Saturday afternoon. Marcus was not there. The FBI had already spoken to him on a Thursday at his office, quietly, with a warrant in a folder of their own. He had not been arrested yet. He had been told not to leave the state. Daphne opened the door in a gray sweatshirt and bare feet, and she already knew something was wrong because I had asked to come on a weekday she was off, and I had not laughed once on the phone. We sat at her kitchen table. The kitchen clock above her stove ticked the way it had ticked at every dinner I had eaten in that house for 15 years. I opened my portfolio. I did not cry. I did not raise my voice. I slid the printed photograph across the table, the one of a man in a green jacket standing on my doormat at 5:44 in the morning in Denver in February of 2018. I told her where I had been that night. I told her I had been asleep upstairs. I told her she had been at home in Cleveland, because I had checked, because I check everything. I told her the elbow on the window in Phoenix was the same elbow in Denver, the same elbow in Nashville, the same elbow that had been on her kitchen counter every morning for 18 years. She put her hand over her mouth. She did not speak for a long time, and then she said the one sentence I had been holding my breath for. She said, "He asked me, the week before your wedding to David, if you had a back entrance to your apartment." I had forgotten until right now. I told her I had not forgotten. I had been waiting 11 years for someone else to remember. Some monsters bring a casserole. Some monsters ask about back entrances. The little inspector wrote it all down. If this one is sitting somewhere personal, hit the like button quietly. No big speech. Just a small thank you between the 2 of us. I drove home that night with the windows cracked and the radio off. Somewhere on Interstate 85, about 40 minutes outside Raleigh, I started talking to the girl I had been at 19 in that basement computer lab in Columbus, the one with the notebook and the license plates and the mother who called her the little inspector. I told her she had been right about the elbow at the wedding toast. I told her she had been right about the back entrance question at the cookout. I told her she had been right every single time her body went cold and her mind told her she was imagining it. I told her she had not been paranoid. She had been a witness. I told her that being watched by a broken man for 11 years is not the same as being chosen, and being unseen by the people around you is not the same as being unworthy of being seen. I told her she had built a folder no one knew existed, and on a Monday morning in April, she had handed it to a woman with silver hair and reading glasses, and the silence she had carried since she was 21 had finally been heard out loud in a federal building by someone who believed her on the first page. The porch light was on when I pulled into my driveway. I sat in the car for a long minute and I watched it. Then I went inside and I locked the door, and for the first time in 11 years, I did not check the camera before I went to bed.